Huh? They take all the instruments. Oh, one pair is enough. It's fine. Oh, it's yours. No, thank you. Oh, Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna. Thank you so much for bringing it. That was very considerate and thoughtful of you. They left some mridangas here. I need the switch for changing the slide and everything. Also, if anybody still wants a book, we only have 2 books left. So, anyone wants a book, you can get it after the class. Thank you so much. Oh, it does. What do you do for that?
The green button.
That one. Okay, I wasn't sure that. I thought that might be an on-off button, so I was not messing with it. Okay.
Please come forward.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. So maybe we could turn off some of these lights so that we get a better view on the screen. At least the ones here, like this bank. That's a little better. Okay. So we're going to look at today how we can find peace. This spiritual world is called Vaikuntha, without anxiety, and this world is Kunta, full of anxiety. So we have so many anxieties here, so many things to worry about. How are we going to be peaceful? So we worry about, first we're going to look at what do we worry about? What are the things we worry about? Why do we worry about them? We're going to look at principles of peace, and then we're going to look at the practice of peace. So we're going to look at what do we worry about? Why do we worry about it? What are the principles of peace? And what are the practices of peace? So what do we worry about? Will I have enough? Will I have enough money? Will I have enough food? Will I have enough of this? Will I have enough of that? We worry about what will happen to, especially what will happen to my relationships. What will happen to my relationships with my parents, with my spouse, with my children, with my employer, Are they going to work out all right? Are we all going to get along? Is everybody going to be nice to each other? What's going to happen with my relationships? We worry about our decisions. Am I making the right decision? Should I go to this school or that school? Should I get this job or that job? Should I move here or there? Should I marry this person? What school should I send my kid to? What decision should I make? If I make this decision, what will happen? If I make that decision, what will happen? Oh my goodness, I have a lot. 2 more, then I have one for each head of Lord Brahma. Thank you so much. Always better to have too much. I was talking to one devotee the other day who said that every time there's a decision to be made, she thinks of every possible thing that could go wrong. And the consequence of that is that she just gets frozen, and just like, I can't make any decision. And I said, well, not making any decision is also a decision. If I do this, then what will happen? But then if I don't do that, then this will happen. And we worry about the people that we love. If they're going to suffer, if they're going to get sick, if they're going to have some difficulty in their life. Are my children going to get a good job? Will they have a good spouse? Will they become good devotees? My father's in the hospital. Is he going to be okay? And so we worry about the people that we love and what will happen to them. And we worry about what will happen with my job. Will I get a promotion? Will I get fired? Will I get transferred? How well will I do in school? Will I get good grades? Is my house going to be okay? And we have a lot of family on the big island of Hawaii, and they just had all these earthquakes, and we're like, are you okay? Is the house okay? So one of our family members wrote, well, all the doors that used to stick now work perfectly. She said the earthquake fixed all the doors in the house. But you worry about the house, you worry about the car. So I was using my son-in-law's car, and I was shopping at Walmart, and I came out of Walmart, and I went to go get the car in the parking lot, and somebody had rammed into it and took the bumper off the car while I was shopping. You worry about the car, you worry about the house, right? The job, the school. Then we worry, will I get something? Will I get a good spouse? Will I get children? Will I get possessions? Will I get status? Will I get respect? Will I get money? Will I get these things at all? Are they going to come? Are they not going to come? So they say the number one worry is maybe, Then they say the number one worry is that what will happen if I run out of money before I run out of life? I remember when in my mother's end of her life, she made the decision against my wishes. She had a nephew who ran an old age home, a doctor, and he was urging her to move out of her apartment into the old age home. So I said, no, Mom, I'll stay, I'll take care of you. She said, no, I'm going to move in there. I'm like, okay, I couldn't really do anything about it. So anyway, she was a very wealthy woman, but she was so worried that she would outlive her money. She's like, this home is really expensive, and it costs so much per year, and what am I going to do if I get really old? How am I going to pay to stay here? And I'm like, just go back to your house, I'll take care of you. Come to my house, I'll take care of you. So this anxiety, am I going to run out of money before I run out of life? And then we think, all right, great, Urmila, so I just won't worry anymore. Okay, fine, I won't worry anymore. But then what will that look like? You know, will that look like I just become kind of cold-hearted? Well, I just don't care about anything. I don't care about my stuff. I don't care about my family. I don't care about my friends. I don't care about my money. I'm just become stone-hearted. I just become icy-hearted. What are you doing? You're not doing anything, and I'm not doing anything. Sometimes it just goes crazy, huh? Is this artificial intelligence? I know more than that. Yeah, no. More. Next one. Next one. Okay, there we go. The computer just wants to see ahead, huh? It's like hurry up, hurry up. So we may think this. We may think that not worrying is being cold-hearted. And this mistake is made by a lot of people, and I'd say a lot of devotees also. That detachment, being equipoised. Or we read in the Bhagavad Gita where Krishna is saying, you know, just be detached. What does Krishna say to be detached from in the Bhagavad Gita? Can you tell me some of the dualities he says to be detached from? Heat and cold. Honor, dishonor. Success, failure. Okay. More. Happiness and distress. Victory and loss. Gain and safety, which we're going to talk about a lot about that tonight. Right. Fame and infamy, friends, neutral and enemies, auspicious and inauspicious. Right? He says, one who does not hate illumination, attachment, or delusion when they appear, nor long for them when they disappear. So we may think, okay, well that just means I become like a rock, you know, or a piece of ice. Just make my heart like a rock or a piece of ice, and I just don't care anymore. Right? I think we've all tried that. Have we all tried that? No. Is that very sustainable? Is it sustainable? No. Who's tried this? I've tried this. Have you tried this? Who else has tried it? Only one or two of you. Come on. Honesty doesn't hurt, you know. I'm admitting it, and I'm on camera. Have you tried this? Just like hardening your heart. Okay, is it sustainable? Is it pleasant? No. Okay. So then we may think, well, maybe it means becoming like a child. You know, just irresponsible. I'm not worried about anything. I just take my credit card to the store and buy what I want. Just don't worry about it. So this is the other idea. And we think, well, you know, I have to worry because otherwise I'll be hard-hearted or irresponsible. Have we ever tried this one? Have we ever tried just being irresponsible? You don't have to raise your hands for that one. That's too embarrassing. But, you know, maybe we tried that one too. I'll just be free from all anxiety by giving up my sense of responsibilities. And we think, but the things I worry about, they're all really important. Now, this is kind of embarrassing, but when I was reviewing this, I've taught this many times, but when I was reviewing this afternoon, I was realizing that actually just today I was worrying about something because I thought it was really important. You know, it's really important. You know, like I'm saving the world, right? The world's going to blow up in like 2 seconds or so, 2.2 seconds, and I'm going to be Superman saving the world. And so it's really important. It's really important. By the way, how many of the things that we worry about do you think are actually really important? Seriously? Do we even remember what we worried about 5 years ago? Or a week ago? You know, and if you keep a journal and if you keep track of these things, you go back and look at them and say, really? I was worried about that. So we're thinking, you know, it's so important. It's really so important. And it's so uncertain. It's really so uncertain. You know, I have to worry about it. So one of the things we want to look at is the benefits of worry. Do we gain anything by worrying about things? I thought, well, the things we worry about things that we figure we cannot avoid. And we hope that by worrying about them, we can like prepare our mind to meet them. You know, somehow if I'm in anxiety about this thing that's unavoidable, then I'm going to be better prepared when it comes. And we also, I see, we worry about things because we think by worrying about them, we'll be able to find a way to avoid them. You know, if I really worry about my money and really worry about my grades and I really worry about my grandmother, then I can probably, you know, that will help me find a solution. Is that very effective, though? Does worrying about things and being anxiety about things, does that actually help us prepare or find solutions? Any idea why not? Yeah.
We cannot concentrate on the real problem.
Very good. You can't concentrate on the problem. It actually clouds intelligence. Have you noticed that? That when we're in anxiety about something, that anxiety clouds our thinking. And so we're actually not able to do exactly the thing we're trying to do. I'm thinking if I worry about my finances, you know, then I'll come up with a solution. But when you're worried, you can't actually think clearly about solutions. If I worry about this thing, I'll be able to face it better when it comes. But when you worry about it again, you can't really come up with a plan to face it when it comes. And worrying about things also certainly prevents our being able to be happy in the moment. And my dear friends, all we ever have is the moment. Isn't that true? So, you know, in this particular moment, we're sitting in a beautiful room and it's nice temperature and I assume nobody's hungry, right? But rather than we're sitting with nice people, I hope you're all nice. But instead of appreciating that, we may be worrying about something. Isn't that right? You're in a nice situation, and while you're in the nice situation, you're not even aware of the nice situation you're in because you're worrying about something else. Oh, what about this? What about that? My husband said he would have to take care of the car and do the oil change, and when I get home, I wonder if he will have done it. If he hasn't done it, I'm going to have to say something to him. If I say something to him, he may get angry, we may get in a fight, but if we don't get the oil change, the car's going to fall apart, and I don't have to. And so, you know, whatever, maybe. And so instead of enjoying the food you're eating and the people that you're with, so it doesn't really help us to face these things, and it prevents us from happiness in life, but we're thinking it does something good for us. Now this fact that the things in our life that harm us are things we're doing because we think they will benefit us is very, very important whenever we want to change any kind of habit, behavioral or mental or emotional in our life. If we assume that the habit we want to change is only bad, it's very difficult to change it. We want to look at what supposed benefit do I think I'm getting from this? What actual benefit or what supposed benefit? And only when we look at that are we able to see, well, am I really getting that benefit? Could I get that benefit in another way? I mean, is there a way that I could face the future? Is there a way I could face the uncertainties in life with peace and happiness? That's the question. All those things we worry about are not going to go away, but can I deal with them with a peaceful and clear mind? So we're going to look at 2 principles of peace, and then we're going to look at 4 practices of peace. So the first principle of peace is, what is our shelter? What is our shelter? Now, by the way, each of the things we're going over tonight, if we can just institute one of them, it's life-changing. So even if we can't get everything that's here, and I've found myself that I teach this, okay, and I still helps me to circle back to it and go over it sometimes. Does this make sense to everybody? So especially if something comes up in my life that's a particular cause of anxiety, it helps me to circle back to these things and say, oh, what's my shelter? Is that clear to everybody? Yes? Okay. So, we need shelter because we have needs. A need is something, if it's not met, there's some sort of harm. That's how we're going to define needs rather than wants. If I don't get something I want, there's no harm. But if I don't get something I need, there's a harm. So, psychologists, sociologists have analyzed human needs. So this is a general list. Perhaps it's not complete, but we're going to just look at these. So we have a need for autonomy, connection, honesty, play, peace, meaning, and security. So we have a need for autonomy. We're all individual souls. Krishna says, never was there a time when I did not exist, nor you, nor all these kings, nor in the future shall any of us cease to be. And Srila Prabhupada particularly uses that verse as indicative of the fact that we are all individuals. Now, what does it mean to be an individual? To be an individual doesn't just mean that there's some geographical separation between us, that we occupy different points in space. Because, as we know, the creation of time and space is part of illusion. So that's not what it is. It's that we have different natures, we have different tastes, isn't it? Isn't that a fact? Right? Some people love purple, some people hate it. Some people love eggplant, some people don't like eggplant. I mean, it's just, some people love Seattle, some people never want to come here at all. I mean, we have different tastes. We have different things we like and things we don't like, different things we're comfortable with. We have different ways of interacting with the world. Some people, when they're upset, they don't want to talk to anybody. They want to go in their room and close the door. Some people, when they're upset, they want to call their 15 friends and talk to each of them for an hour. Right? So these are aspects of individuality. Some of us are very comfortable taking risks and making big changes in our life. Some of us would like to have exactly the same food and exactly the same schedule and wear the same clothes every day. So these are all indicative of our individuality. And our need for autonomy is our need to express our individuality. So this need to express our individuality is something that's a very, very important part of our Gaudiya Vaishnav philosophy. That in the spiritual world, we all express our individuality in relationship to Krishna. And in this material world even, we're expressing our individuality, even our individuality that may be temporarily limited to this life or a part of this life. Just like, you know, in this life somebody may be inclined to act as a brahmana, in another life they may be inclined to act as a kshatriya. So that kind of individuality is going to change from one life to the next. But in any particular lifetime or in a part of a lifetime, Krishna wants us to express our individuality in his service. And if we're not able to have some autonomy in our life, if we're not able to make some choices about our own life, then we're slaves, huh? Is that very pleasant? Anybody want to be a slave? So we feel if we're not able to express our individuality, if we're not able to make our own choices, if we're not able to have things according to our own tastes, we become very unhappy. And we'll discuss this a little bit tomorrow also in terms of our sadhana. But this is a very strong need of every living being, to be able to express their individual nature and their personality by being able to make some of their own choices in life. And by the way, this starts asserting itself in a child about maybe 13, 14 months old. Yes, those of you who are parents? What's one of the first words a child learns how to say? No. Have you noticed that? Yeah. I want to put on my shoes myself. Yes? I want to do it myself. I want to do it the way I want it. You know, I don't want to eat that. I don't want to wear that. And this expression of autonomy comes very early in life. All right, then we also have a need for connection. We have a need for connection, ultimately, of course, with Krishna. We have a need for connection with nature. We have a need for connection with other living beings. And this need for connection is also part of our eternal spiritual nature. The soul naturally has a connection with the Lord and with all life. If we're in a situation where we're not getting along with people, we can't communicate with them, we don't understand each other, there's no harmony in our lives, we're very disturbed. So everybody needs, even the biggest introvert, needs some sense of connection. Some kind of exchange of friendship, some kind of exchange of love, camaraderie, whatever. Then we need authenticity and honesty. We need things that are genuine. There's a great urge, and this is, of course, ultimately a spiritual need as well. Krishna is the absolute truth. We have a need for things that are true. It's very difficult to deal with people who are deceptive, isn't it? Isn't that difficult? One of the things that disturbs us most is betrayal and deception. If we don't have people that we can trust, if we don't have people that we can be honest with, who can be honest with us, it's very difficult to function. So we need some sense of honesty and authenticity in our lives. We need play. So this is also originally a spiritual urge. Krishna is always playing. That's all Krishna does is lila or krida. And we also have a need for play. In fact, Krishna says in the 6th chapter of Bhagavad Gita that the yogi is balanced in eating, sleeping, working, and recreation. He never gets the water, don't worry about that. So we have a need for peace. We have a need for relaxation, for renewal. Again, this is ultimately a spiritual need. We can't just be going. So we need recreation not only in the sense of play, but we need recreation in the sense of just peace and relaxation. There was a time when, as you know, Srila Prabhupada would translate in the middle of the night every night, but there was a time that he wasn't translating for a while, and his servant got worried, and Prabhupada said, in every activity there's periods of work and periods of relaxation. You know, one of my friends just recently wrote that she was working on a problem, couldn't figure it out, and then she went and took a walk and got the solution to her problem. And she said, lesson from that, take walks. So we have a need, actually. This is one of the problems in modern society, is sometimes you have to be on all the time. So we have a need for peace, for space, for relaxation. And this is the concept of Ekadasi, or like the Christians with the Sabbath, that you have a time that you don't work. The idea of going on a retreats and going to a holy place. And then we have a need for meaning. We have a need to know that what we're doing has value. To try to find meaning in our life, meaning in our actions, that we matter. It's a hard thing for a conditioned soul to feel that there's meaning in our lives are so short, and then they're over and everybody forgets about us. And to really feel that we're making a difference. And again, this is ultimately a spiritual urge. To have a sense that I really matter, and what I do has some effect on things. And we have a need for security. On the gross physical level, this has to do with our body temperature, that if we get too hot or too cold, we're going to die. So we have a need to be secure from the elements. We have a need to be secure from, insects that transmit disease. I'm sure you know that more people are killed by insects, by mosquitoes, than practically like any other creature. Did you know that? So we have a need to be free from, insects, from wild animals, from human criminals. So we have a physiological need for security. But ultimately, this is, again, a spiritual need, that the soul needs to feel secure and sheltered with Krishna. So, and a sense of, that sense of security often translates into our life in general. So we haven't looked at every possible psychological need, sociological need that we experience, but these are some broad categories that can give us some sense of what our needs are. And again, a need means something that if it's not met, I am going to experience some sort of, there'll be some negative consequence if my needs are not met. So the problem, materially speaking, is that if I look to meet my needs in a place where my needs cannot be met, I will worry. If I look to meet my needs in a place where my needs cannot be met, I will worry. If I look to meet my needs in a place where my needs cannot be met, I will worry. Does this make sense to everybody? I have these needs for autonomy, for connection, for authenticity, for play, for relaxation, for security. I have these needs which are all ultimately spiritual. If those needs are denied, I will suffer. There's no two ways about it. I will definitely suffer if I don't get those needs met. And if I try to meet those needs someplace that cannot meet those needs, I will be filled with anxiety. You know, if you go to a gas station and you're hoping to buy a computer, you're going to be frustrated. So it's something like that. We're looking, we're searching, we're depending on, we're taking shelter of things that will not meet those needs in order to meet those needs. And then we will constantly be worried about those things. So where do we go to meet those needs? Well, we go to our body. My body will meet my need for autonomy. I'll be able to express my personality through my body. My body will meet my need for connection. My body will meet my need for security. Will it? What do you think? Will our body meet those needs? Sometimes, somewhat. Is our body dependable for meeting those needs? I know, it's late. Am I putting you all to sleep? Is my body dependable for meeting those needs? Can you depend that your body in the next 5 minutes is going to be functioning properly? No. Our body's not dependable. It can get sick, isn't it? It can get injured, it gets old. And even if my body's young and healthy and strong, it may not always meet my needs. It may not always be the proper vehicle for meeting my needs, isn't it? So therefore, I worry about things in relationship to my body. Is that clear to everybody? You know, everybody gets that? All right. Another common shelter is the mind. That I take shelter of my mind for meeting my needs. I'll be able to get connection and autonomy and security and peace and play through the actions of the mind, through my knowledge, through my creativity, through the social connections I've made. Is that reliable? Is our mind reliable? Is our mind always a shelter for us? Can we depend on the mind? The mind's pretty peculiar, isn't it? You never know what kind of thoughts are going to come into the mind. You're like, where did that thought come from? Does this happen to all of you or just to me? Why am I thinking of that? I know the other day I was cooking and all of a sudden I thought of a song I knew when I was like 2 years old. And I hadn't probably thought about it since I was 2 years old, you know. Why am I thinking of this song? And the mind can think all sorts of things. All right, then this is another big shelter, other living beings. our friends, our family, our co-workers, our animals. Shh, we're coming to that slide. So this is a really big one, isn't it? I think this is a huge one. My group, Sajjana. The Bhagavad Gita, Arjuna was so afraid of fighting with his family. If I fight with my family, then when I win, there'll be nobody to celebrate with me. Who will come to the victory party? They'll all be dead. You know, that my family, my friends, my community, my nation, my ethnicity, you know, the other people who share my religion, who share my nationality, whatever, they'll be there for me. Even if my body fails me and my mind fails me, my family will be there. I remember when, I guess it was 2000, one of my sisters passed away. Then in 2002, my mother passed away. In 2003, my father passed away. And in 2004, my other sister passed away. And it was like, I'm alone. You know, you always, no matter how old you are, if your parents are still living, you always think, well, if things get really bad, I can always call mommy and daddy. You know, and then one day they just weren't there. Oh, I should call my, oh, she's not there. And even if they are there, can they always help you? I want to tell you, I'm busy right now. Tell me later, okay? Hey, can you do this? No, I can't, sorry. Isn't it? Even if they're alive, they love you, whatever. They frustrate us. They disappoint us. Well, can always be our things. Our computers, our phones, our cars, our houses, our clothes, our shoes, I don't know, whatever it is. They'll save us. They'll meet my needs. Does that work? Do our things provide us with our needs? Are they reliable? They can break, right? Like when I came out of the store and the car was broken. Broken car. Or even when they're working, they may not meet our needs. In fact, they may actually do harm to us. Well, these are the things we're going to be worrying about. We're worrying about what will happen to my body, what will happen to my health, what will happen to this, will I have enough money, what will happen to my mind, what will happen to my other people, my life, what will happen to my possessions, my money. Weren't all those things all the things we were worried about, their relation to body, mind, other living beings and things, yes? Everything we talked about in the beginning? Is that clear to everybody? Why were we all worrying about those things? Because they were our shelters. But look, all those things are really, oops. What are they? 1, 2, 3. Fallible soldiers, see? You must have actually done this presentation, right? Are you sure? Okay. They're all fallible soldiers. They're like toy soldiers, right? I had a cousin, every time I went to his house, the only thing he ever wanted to play was toy soldiers. And said, I don't want to go to Auntie's house. Well, why not? Because cousin only wants to play with toy soldiers. You know, they're just toy soldiers. They can't do anything for you. They're not, they look like soldiers. Well, not particularly, perhaps. You know, they look a little bit like soldiers. But when push comes to shove, you know, they really can't help you. So, you know, can they really protect what I already have? Can my body, mind, other living beings and things, can they really protect the way I'm already fulfilling my needs? Can they make sure that the way, like, you know, can they make sure the way I'm meeting my needs now, I'm going to be able to do in 10 minutes, right? Can they protect it? And can they really provide what I don't have, the ways that I'm lacking? Can they really provide for what I lack? So this first principle is the reason I'm worrying is that the way I'm trying to meet my needs, my shelters for meeting my needs are all fallible. And I've got to get my needs met or I will suffer. I can't just say, well, I don't care about meeting my needs. It doesn't work. I can't just become cold-hearted and say, I don't care if my needs get met or not. I don't get them met, I'll suffer. So I'm worried. So what can I have to go to the real shelter. This is the first principle. So the first principle has to do with shelter. I have to have the right shelter. I have to have an infallible shelter. Now, interestingly enough, Krishna gives the first infallible shelter as our own self. Isn't that interesting? Our real self. Not the body, not the mind, the real self. My real self is actually my own shelter. Isn't that interesting? And of course, ultimately, the super self. So me, the real self and the super self are both infallible. If my means of meeting my needs is my real self and the super self, I never have to worry about getting my needs met. Well, you may have a doubt. So the first principle is shelter, the second principle is trust. We might have a doubt. I'd say, well, Urmila, all right. So the super self is infallible and I as a soul am infallible, but is that going to work? If I have the super self, if I have Krishna as my shelter, is he really going to meet all of my needs? I mean, I know he can, but will he? So I know my body, my mind, other living beings, and my things are incapable of meeting my needs. Do we all agree with that? That those things are incapable of meeting all my needs all the time? Everybody agree with that? Yes? So can I accept that if I'm functioning as my real self and with God, that on the spiritual platform, this capability of having all my needs met, do we all accept that? Yes? But then the question may be, well, I don't know if they'll do that. I mean, somebody might be capable of helping me, but they might still not do it, isn't it? All right, let's see if we can now go to the second principle, which is trust. And trust is a little bit harder and deeper of a principle than shelter. Correct? Okay. Oh, you don't have the right font on your computer. Sorry about that. Shows up nicely on my screen, but not on your screen. So, in order to develop trust, we understand that we are part of the complete whole. So I'm sure we all know this verse, and I'm sorry that the diacritics are all messed up. Can we maybe say it together? Om Purnam Ada Purnamidam Purnat Purnat Udachyate Purnasya Purnam Adaya Purnam Eva Vasishyate. Now the literal translation of this verse is, this is complete, that is complete. From the complete comes. If you take the complete away from the complete, still the complete remains. That's very good. Most people don't know the literal translation of that verse. It's basically infinity minus infinity equals infinity, and infinity can produce infinity. So what do we mean by complete? Well, if the Supreme is complete, the Supreme must be completely satisfying. Is this logical so far? If the complete is complete, that must include completely satisfying. It must include completely loving. It must include completely pleasurable. So we have satisfying, loving, pleasurable. We're still faced with uncertainty. We're not eliminating uncertainty. This trust does not eliminate uncertainty. At every moment, there is uncertainty. Nor is this trust giving us control. We're not going to look for peace by looking for certainty and control. When we talk about trusting that the complete whole is going to meet all of our needs, we are not talking about some sort of certainty or control. Oops. Sometimes we become particularly aware that life is uncertain and we're not in control. It's always true, but every once in a while we become particularly aware of how uncertain life is and how little we're in control. So what we go to instead is simply trusting that there's a loving, competent God who's running the show. It's not that if I take shelter of him, all of a sudden I'm going to be in control and I'm going to know exactly what's going to happen. But rather, I trust that someone's in control who has my best interest at heart and who is completely satisfying. So those are the two principles. I put my shelter in the infallible instead of the fallible, and I trust that the infallible loves me and has my best interest at heart. I'm not looking for peace by trying to artificially develop certainty and control. Looking to develop certainty and control is how a materialistic person tries to find peace. Looking for certainty and control is how a materialistic person tries to find peace. But a materialistic person tries to find peace by trying to force certainty and control in a world that resisted it every moment. They're looking for shelter in things that cannot meet their needs, and they're trying to force those things to be certain and controllable when those things resist certainty and controllability at every second. So we go to the right shelter and we accept that in an uncertain, not under our control world, that everything is benevolent. So you got those principles. Now if you just have those principles, one will do very well. But now we're going to go on to, well, what do we do? Because what I presented so far is theory. And you might say, well, that's very nice theoretically, but what am I going to do, an hour from now? So we're going to look, as I said in the beginning, at 4 ways of practical action. So these are much more specific than the 2 principles. And they are progressive. Right? So each one builds on the one before them. So these practical actions, these involve our thoughts, feelings, and behaviors. Whenever we want to make a shift, we want to be sure that we make a shift in all three areas. If we just change our behaviors or just our thoughts or just our emotions, it tends not to be as stable. So we want to be devoted to the eternal and secure rather than temporary and fallible. We want to act without attachment to results. We want to be absorbed in yoga in the immediate present. And we want to delight in the adventure. So we're going to look at these one at a time. Okay, the first one is be devoted to the eternal and secure rather than the temporary and fallible. So we talked about having the right shelter. So this action is we actually devote ourselves to the right shelter. You know, there's a lot of people who say, I believe that there is a God. I believe that I am a spiritual being. But they don't devote themselves to that belief. Am I correct? I mean, the vast majority of people in the United States say, I believe in God. Do the vast majority of people in the United States devote themselves to the God in whom they believe? No. Maybe somewhat. I mean, I know many people who say, I believe in God, and they never do anything to act on that belief at all. Yes? Do you all know people like that? Or maybe they do a little something, you know. Like I met one girl who said, well, I go to church on Easter and Christmas. You know, so something. So if we want to have that security, we actually need to have some devotion. And in fact, this is what Krishna says. He says, I want to look especially at this last line, Nir Yoga Kshema Atmavan. Sorry, that's a sh. It's not a no. Be free from all anxieties for gain and safety and be established in the self. Nir Yoga Kshema Atmavan. This is 245. So this is being devoted to our real self. Prabhupada will often talk about real self-interest. We should have devotion to our real self. You know, we tend in this world to have some devotion to the body and mind. I mean, you have to have some or else it won't function. But, you know, people get very devoted to their body and mind. They spend a lot of time on eating healthy and exercising and reading good books, right? Keeping their mind active, keeping their body active, which is all good, and we should do those things. But what about being devoted to our real self? You follow? So, you know, I'm going to spend some time exercising every day. I'm going to spend time making sure I have home-cooked healthy meals. I'm going to keep my mind active and gain and, you know, keep up my knowledge. I'm going to devote some time to the maintenance of that self, so-called self. We'll devote some time to the maintenance of my real self. What am I doing to keep my real self healthy? What am I doing to keep my real self active? And this is what Krishna says, be established in the real self. Then you can give up all these anxieties for gain and safety. Because the real self cannot be harmed. Right? Bhagavad Gita 2:23, the soul can't be cut into pieces by any weapon, or burned by fire, moistened by water, or withered by the wind. What need is that? A need for what? Remember we listed the needs? Security. As soon as I'm devoted to the real self, immediately I've got security. I can't be harmed at all, ever, by anyone. No harm to the body or mind can ever touch me. An interesting story Bhaktivedanta Maharaj tells, when he was very new to Krishna consciousness, he was a student, a graduate student in biochemistry in Moscow. And as soon as he got involved with the movement, the KGB wanted to interview him, which is, you know, a little scary. So he was very worried about going. He was in a lot of anxiety about going to the interview. And then he said he was talking to one of the devotees, and he described her as a very short and small little woman. She was a really tiny little lady. And she said to him, "Don't worry, You're not that body, you're not that mind. And he thought, if she can be fearless, this tiny little thing, you know, then why can't I be fearless? And he went to meet with the KGB and he was fearless. So, you know, to be established in the self. And this means to actually cultivate our real self. One of my favorite verses, Bhagavad Gita 6:20-23, where Krishna says we should relish and rejoice in the self. Relish and rejoice in the self. Now, you can't relish and rejoice much in the body and the mind. It's not that relishable or rejoiceable. No, I know it's not a word. But you can relish and rejoice in the real self. It's wonderful. To be absorbed in real things. Become absorbed in the things that have to do with the real self, rather than to be absorbed in the temporary things. We'll talk about this one a little bit more tomorrow also. I think this particular item is a challenge in the modern world. We're just bombarded with temporary, illusory things to absorb ourselves. Okay, so that was devotion to the self. Now we're going to go to attachment to the super self and the real self instead of material results. So generally when we work for some material results. Again, why are we doing anything? Everything that we do is to try to meet our needs. That's why we're doing things. And by the way, that's fine. Remember, one of our needs is connection. Yes? If we're working to meet that need on the spirit, if we're working to meet all those needs we mentioned on the spiritual platform, that would be bhakti yoga. Okay? It's not that we don't try to meet our needs. We try to meet our needs in bhakti yoga. But generally, we work with some attachment to a material result. I'm going to work at this job, I'm going to earn X amount of money, and with that money, I'm going to have security. Don't we even call them that? Securities? I'm going to have security. I'm going to have time for recreation. I'm going to have time to relax. Remember, these were our needs? I'm going to have the ability to express myself. I'm going to have the ability to make connections. We think, you know, if I make money, I'm going to meet all those needs. So we're working to make money with the idea that the money will make those needs. And we become attached to that result. That becomes the purpose for which we're doing something. When I first came here, I wanted to get some flowers for my deities. So, you know, I stopped at a shop and I bought some carnations. And there was this elderly man there buying a single red rose. Most likely for some woman. Probably. So what result did he want from that? He wanted the result that this woman would be pleased with him. I'm sure that was the... I felt like saying to him, so what did you do now that you got to apologize for? You know, he wants a particular result. Right? I mean, the child is upset if their parents are angry with them. I want my parents have to be pleased with me. Again, body, mind, other living beings and things. We're doing things to get a certain result from those four, thinking that the result is going to meet our needs. Is everybody following this logic? Now what happens? What happens is that we often don't get that result. You bring your wife the red rose and she's still angry with you. She's like, you think the red rose is going to make up for what you did this morning? I mean, seriously? It doesn't work. Or you get the result and you know, it's not really satisfying. Or you get the result and it's temporary. She's satisfied with you for a week and then a week later she's unhappy with you about something else. And you keep the flower shop in business. So, the art of being free from worry, this one, is to perform our duty equipoised. We were talking about the dualities, right? Heat and cold, happiness and distress, success and failure. That you act without considering those things. So what do you consider instead? What you consider instead, Prabhupada says, is Krishna's smile. Now, if we can just remember this one thing, this is a life-transforming thing. The result I want from my work is that Krishna will smile. That's the result I'm looking for. It's not that we don't care about any result, but we're looking for that result. If I make a lot of money, if I don't make any money, if my wife forgives me when I buy her the red rose, if she throws me out of the house, if everybody praises me, if I'm falsely accused of terrible things and nobody talks to me for the rest of my life, whatever the result is Krishna smiling. And if Krishna is smiling, that's okay. Remember, He's the infinite and He's the infallible. So I become devoted to what's secure, and then I work for what's secure. I nourish what's secure, I nourish my real self, and I'm devoted to pleasing my real self and to pleasing the super self. I invest there. I was always struck in the Kaliya story how the residents of Vrindavan were crying when Krishna was in Kaliya's coils. And it said they had invested everything in Krishna. And therefore, when they thought Krishna was going to die, they were devastated. There's a play we used to perform on Sunday called The Wrong Bank Account. It was about this guy who went to the bank every week and he would deposit something from his paycheck. And you know that you can deposit money in other people's account if you just have their account number, right? That's all you need. You just need their account number. You just go to the bank, and if you give them the account number, you can put the money. You can't take the money out of their account with just the account number, but you can put money into their account with the account number. So let's say that you had just like one number wrong on your account. You all follow this, right? So you just have one, and the bank, they're not going to question you. They're not going to say, are you sure you want to put the money into that account? They're just going to take the money and put it into the bank. So if you had an 8 instead of a 6 or something, you had a 9 instead of a 4 or a 7 instead of a 1. And every week you're putting your money into this account. And maybe you're kind of a space case, you don't check your accounts. And then you go to take your money out, there's nothing there. And you go, I put it, you put it in 2007. So when we're investing in results in this world, we're putting it into someone else's account. We're putting it into the account of the body, we're putting it into the account of the mind and other living beings and our things. And then when we go to take, there's nothing there. Actually invest in Krishna's pleasure. Now the way I explain how to do this, it's actually a very simple thing. Like I can be talking to you, but actually I'm trying to impress you. Do you do this? Do you ever deal with one person to try to impress somebody else or please somebody else? Yeah? Of course. Like Prabhupada said, love me, love my dog. So when I take a walk in the morning, sometimes people are walking their dogs. And so I will always say to them, oh, what a nice looking dog you have. I don't care about their dog. I won't tell them. Don't tell them I said that, but sometimes I'll even say good morning to the dog, Say good morning to the guy. Oh, good morning. And they say good morning, and then the dog goes ruff, ruff, ruff. And I look at them and say, good morning. I don't care about saying good morning to the dog. Why am I saying good morning to the dog? Because when you say good morning to the dog, the person walking the dog becomes happy. Yes? They always do. They're always happy when you say that. Oh, you have such a nice looking dog. Oh, good morning. Good morning, dog. How are you doing? And the owner smiles. Correct? I don't care about the dog. I care about the dog. a living entity, Hare Krishna. But you all understand my point, right? Yes? Deal with all living entities to please Krishna, not to please them independently. Good luck trying to please your wife, your husband, your son, your daughter, your mother, your father, your aunt, your uncle, your employer, your employees, the government, whatever, independent of Krishna. Good luck with it, and let me know how it turns out. It doesn't work very well, does it? Does it work very well? You know, you make your husband lasagna on Tuesday, and he says, "Oh, I love lasagna." So you make it again on Wednesday, and he says, 2 days in a row? You know, it just doesn't work very well. And you can slave and sacrifice, and nobody even notices. Have you noticed that that happens? Nobody even pays the slightest bit of attention. And you're like, don't you even notice everything I've done for you? But Krishna notices everything. Take care of your wife so Krishna will smile. Take care of your husband so Krishna will smile. Take care of your children so Krishna will smile. Take care of your job so Krishna will smile. Krishna's pleased. I mean, come on. Krishna's pleased by the effort to please him. Generally in this world, people are only pleased by the result, not the effort, and even then, often not. But Krishna is pleased by the effort, even if the result's a catastrophe. Even if you end up giving him banana peels instead of a banana, he's happy. Imagine that. Imagine if you serve your family banana peels. Oh, sorry, messed up. You know, but Krishna's pleased. Krishna's pleased by a little water. This always amuses me. You know, devotees in their home, often on their home altars, they'll have these little tiny cups for water, right? I once visited a home where they had these little tiny Jagannathis. You ever seen these little teeny tiny Jagannathis like this high? Yeah, you've seen this? And so next to the Jagannathis, they had a little tiny cup of water. I don't know where they got that from. Just like, where did you find that? And you could put like an eyedropper full. You know, you'd have to like one eyedropper full, one little drop, you know, of water in this thing. Try pleasing somebody in the world with that. Hello, would you like one little tiny cup? Drop. And Krishna's pleased. He's thrilled. He's like, you've given me water. Patra pushpam palam toyam. It's not that hard to make Krishna smile. It really isn't. You don't have to be like some big yogi in the Himalayas for 10,000 years and chant 150 rounds a day while standing on one leg or something like that. I mean, really just, Krishna, I'm really trying to act as you've instructed in the Bhagavad Gita. I'm really trying to follow your instructions with this person. I'm trying to be kind to all living entities. I'm trying to be patient. I'm trying to see you in the hearts of everyone. You know, and that pleases him. So you work for that as your result. All right, now I told you this is progressive, right? So when do you try to have Krishna smile? At the end? Now. You know, in the spiritual reality, it says in the Brahma Samhita, there is the eternal existence of transcendental time that is ever present without past or future. See, another thing we do in this world is we not only do we work for material results, but they're very future-oriented. You know, I'm work, I get a result. And hopefully I enjoy the result, and it meets some of my needs a little bit now, and then I work for another result. So I'm always in anxiety, will I get that result? Will it meet my need? So when we say work for Krishna's smile instead of a material result, we don't just mean to substitute it for the end. Well, I'm going to work. After I build this temple, then Krishna will smile. After I finish the dokla, cooking the dokla, Krishna will smile. No, but it's now. And this is a poem by Longfellow. It's interesting because Bhaktivinoda Thakur liked this poem very much. Trust no future, however pleasant, let the dead past bury its dead. Act in the living present, heart within, and God overhead. So when should we be trying to make Krishna smile? Now, and now, and now, and now, and now, and now. First of all, materially speaking, we may not have anything past now. And second of all we ever have is now. Work to have Krishna smile now. It's all we ever have. Now, what's really interesting is when we work like this, we will always feel satisfied. Always. If I work to make Krishna smile now, and my devotion is to Krishna, and Krishna is the one meeting my needs, then I will always be satisfied, even in very difficult situations. All right, this last one is the hardest. I say these are progressive. Rejoicing in the adventure. So this one has a lot to do with that second principle of trust. That even though I'm devoted to Krishna, I'm working for him, doing so hasn't eliminated the uncertainty and lack of control that there is in life. It hasn't gotten rid of it. It doesn't mean that if I trust Krishna, I'm not going to have a heart attack or a car accident or my kid won't fail a course. That's not what it means. Right? These terrible things may still happen. Oops. So they may still happen. And they happen to devotees, don't they? We all know devotees that have had terrible things happen to them, not only in 2018, but in the Shastra also. Yes? Historically. Terrible things happened to Srila Prabhupada. His business failed. He got gored by a bull. Right? His first temple in Jhansi was closed. All kinds of things happened. Huh? His manuscript of Bhagavad Gita was stolen. That's like unbelievable. Handwritten manuscript, no copy. So this last one is to rejoice in the adventure. Okay, if I can't be hurt, I can't die, I can't be hurt, I have a benevolent God who's taking care of me, and my result is to have him smile at every moment, then everything that's happening to me becomes an adventure. That's all. I start to become part of the Lord's pastimes. Well, I already am. I start to realize that. And in that mood, I realize that all of my needs will always be met in the perfect way in time, but not necessarily how I think they'll be met. And we give the example here of a mother and a child. So even an ordinary mother, who's certainly not perfect, is going to take care of the needs of her baby, yes? With all of her imperfections, an ordinary mother, we're not talking about like a drug-addicted mother, but an ordinary mother, is going to take care of the needs of her baby. So Krishna is going to take care of all of our needs. I was recently when I was in Mayapur, I was talking with a devotee who I've known for many, many years, and he was telling me, he said, Urmila, not one of the plans that I made for my life worked out, but all of my needs were met, and everything I've always wanted has happened in ways far better than I could have planned or imagined. And that's what you see. You see, when you live like this, that all of my needs are met, although it might not be quite the way I have in mind. And sometimes you look back and go, oh, wow. This thing that happened was really meeting my needs. This was something that I had wanted and that I had needed, and now Krishna's provided it, but he provided it in a way that I didn't expect or I didn't think of. Now, if one says, well, that's not happening to me, my answer is that means that we have the wrong shelter. As I said, these are progressive behaviors, so having this behavior without the first ones doesn't work very well. When we live this way, our life becomes a great adventure story. Now, even in the spiritual world, there's pastimes where apparently no one knows how they're going to turn out. Even Krishna apparently doesn't know how they're going to turn out. That's our personalistic idea of God, that God himself acts under Yoga Maya, and he's not sure if Radharani is going to be happy with him or not. You understand? That's what makes a story. You don't know how it's going to turn out. You don't know what's going to happen. If you know exactly what's going to happen, it's boring. So Krishna creates this idea of uncertainty with Yoga Maya even in the spiritual world. And if we take the uncertainty that we experience in this world in that mood, then we experience that relationship even here. This is a very nice quote from Helen Keller, where she says, "Life is either a daring adventure or nothing. Security does not exist in nature, nor do the children of men as a whole experience it. Avoiding danger is no safer in the long run than exposure." So we embrace the uncertainty in the shelter of Krishna. All right, just to summarize. Oops. I have to keep remembering that when I'm clicking here, it's not clicking on my computer. I have to click in two places. Okay, so we worry about what we need in order to be happy, fulfilled, safe, and so forth, because we have picked the wrong shelter. That's what our anxiety comes from. So if you can just remember that, when the worry and anxiety comes, to go, do I have the wrong shelter? So the principles of peace is that we shift our attachment from the fallible to the infallible, and then we trust the infallible. And with those principles in place, our actions in peace, our internal devotion and attention to our real spiritual self and our connection with the complete whole, enthusiastic action with attachment to the spiritual rather than results, pleasure and satisfaction in the now in yoga, and exulting in participating in Krishna's adventure. And then we have peace, not because we can control the future, but because our attachment and our pleasure is in the truth. So I hope you found that helpful. We have about 7 or 8 minutes if anybody has any questions or comments. Or
Hare Krishna, Mother.
yes, Hare Krishna.
The first need was autonomy. So
Yes.
how it's different from desire, ego, and what is autonomy of a servant?
Okay. Well, on the spiritual level, our desire for autonomy manifests in the particular rasa we have with Krishna. So some souls want to serve Krishna as a friend, some want to serve Krishna as a servant, some want to serve Krishna as a lover, and then in each of those ways there's differences. Like some cowherd boys, they're very quiet and submissive, and some cowherd boys, they like to insult Krishna and joke with him. So in the spiritual world, we manifest our autonomy in different ways we want to serve Krishna, and because Krishna has an infinite number of ways he wants to be served, he's pleased by each of those ways. As far as our personality and autonomy in terms of our material ego, our particular personality in this life is a result of our particular ego. But Krishna says very clearly that we are to use that even material individuality in service. There's things you like to do and you're good at, you do them to please Krishna. It's not that you do things you don't like and you're not good at. Prabhupada says very clearly, and we're looking at these quotes tomorrow, that we should do devotional service according to our personal taste. So we have certain basic minimum things for everybody. Everybody should chant 16 rounds. But, you know, I know some people that like to chant 40 rounds or 100 rounds. Other people would prefer to spend their time reading Bhagavatam. Other people would prefer to spend their time out on Harinam. Other people would prefer to spend their time worshiping the deity. You follow? So servant doesn't mean like a machine. You know, my computer doesn't have any autonomous desires. If I tell my computer right now, show a PowerPoint, the computer doesn't have any autonomous desires to go, but I wanted to do word processing right now. You know, it doesn't have that ability. It's not a living being. But we as living beings, some of us may want to serve Krishna in one way, and some of us may want to serve Krishna in another way. And we're supposed to serve Krishna in the way that fits our personality and nature. Is that all right? Thank you. Excellent question. Thank you for asking that. Yes?
Hare Krishna Mataji. Excellent lecture. Thanks for it. So the basic needs for a human being are home, food, and clothes, right?
Well, that comes in security.
Or that comes under security. But the needs what you explained is different.
Well, you were looking at a more specific level of needs. I was looking at a more general level. So why do you want a home? Why do you need a home? You need a home for security. The home protects you from the weather, protects you from insects, protects you from animals, protects you from thieves. It protects your stuff. It also allows you to express some autonomy. You can decorate the home the way you want. You can put your clothes where you want to put them. The home also facilitates play and relaxation, right? Because you feel secure. You can play games with your kids, and you can, right? It facilitates connection. In your home, you might have your family members. You might not live by yourself, and it might be a place where you can connect with other people. So you don't really have a need for a home. Human being does not have a need for a home. But a home helps facilitate those other things. Like we don't have a need for money. That's not a need for money. There are human societies that have existed without money. And there are, frankly, human societies that exist without much of any home, too. Depends on the climate. But what does money do? Well, money gives you a sense of security. It allows you to express your autonomous desires. It allows you to pay for recreation and relaxation. It allows you to help give gifts to people that you love and establish connection. You understand what I'm saying? Could you do all those things without money? Of course you could. Could do them in other ways, but money facilitates it. Therefore, we think we need money. Now, let's say you had all of those things in abundance. Would you need money? No. That make sense? So yeah, we often think of needs in terms of I need a house, I need a car, I need money, but we really need those things to provide for our actual needs. And all of our real needs have a spiritual basis. They all come originally from the soul, which is why we can meet all those needs spiritually. You cannot necessarily get a house and money spiritually, but you can sure get security and autonomy and play and connection spiritually. You follow? Chanting Hare Krishna is not necessarily going to give you money. Now, it might, I don't know. You could give it a try. But it won't necessarily do that. But it will have all of the needs met for which you want money. And therefore, getting money will no longer be as important to you. It will no longer be your shelter. So if you have money, you'll use it in Krishna service, and if you don't have money, you won't use it in Krishna service. But you'll be equally happy, poor or rich. Your happiness won't be dependent on that. I mean, this is very extreme, but there was this man in Vrindavan who intentionally lived on the street with nothing. I mean, all he had was a blanket. People would feed him and stuff. He lived that way for like 13 years. And he had food and he had friends, and I mean, I wouldn't voluntarily want to live like that. But it was interesting. He had Krishna and he didn't need those other things. It was just kind of interesting. Just looked at it and went, no. Yeah. Again, I don't want to voluntarily live on the street in Vrindavan. It's not my aspiration. But does that make some sense to you?
Hare Krishna Mataji.
Yes.
Wonderful practical lecture. So I read one of the article you have written in Back to Godhead magazine about how you were able to deliver the baby without taking any medication, epidural, anything like that. And you have written that how you focused on Krishna's belt and able to do that. So of course it means that you were taken shelter of the Krishna. So I would like you to talk a bit how when you took the shelter of Krishna in that extreme pain, how you were able to do that, right? And I will relate that to the, I met a gentleman on my flight, and he was a researcher on the pain medication. He was telling that doctors typically give narcotics when in the extreme pain, and they have discovered by going to the Eastern philosophy system that there is a part of the brain when you focus on it, then you don't need, you can give a different kind of a medicine. So if you can just
the problem is you're asking this question at 9:02. And although it's related to this class, it's sort of tangential to it. So I would just say very briefly that I decided to do that because when I was expecting my second child, I read in Teachings of Lord Kapila, where Prabhupada said that even a materialistic man, if he puts his, I may not get getting the words exactly right, if he puts his mind in such a way, he will not be disturbed even by the pain of a surgical operation. And Prabhupada had heard that Stalin had refused anesthetics for surgery because he was afraid somebody might kill him in the surgery. And Prabhupada said, if you can do that materially, you can do that spiritually. And I thought, I want to do that. So yeah, I practiced. I focused on, we were in New York, I focused on Radha Govinda and particularly this belt that Govinda would wear. And yeah, what happened was I experienced myself as the observer, separate from the body and the mind. And I was just observing what was going on, and I wasn't experiencing it as pain at all. Not at all. I was just experiencing it as interesting. So that phenomena is found, what I found much later, is that kind of experience is actually common to anyone who does any kind of meditation, even impersonal meditation. Just like Prabhupada said, even a materialistic person can do that. So as soon as you put your mind basically in sattva gun, you understand that you're the observer and you no longer feel the pains and pleasures of the world. Now, our purpose isn't just to go into sattva gun and be detached from pains and pleasures. Our purpose is to be absorbed in Krishna. But yeah, when you're absorbed in Krishna, the world it's just interesting. And certainly many doctors, psychologists are starting to get interested in the fact that various types of meditation have this as an effect. What I find interesting is that many people taking up meditation today do it for that purpose, whereas what I find is that in Krishna consciousness you sort of start noticing that as a side effect rather than as the primary purpose. So I think I should end now. So thank you very much. If anyone's interested, I have 2 copies left of our book. So this is a Krishna conscious novel. It's written for adults, although teenagers can also read it. I'd say like age 13 and up. And it's a story of the journey of a person from initial interest in spiritual life to Krishna Prema, and it's based on the metaphors from Jud Bharat of the Forest of Enjoyment in the 5th canto, the metaphors that Mahaprabhu tells Sanatana Goswami of Sarvagya the astrologer, and the metaphors that Raghunath Das Goswami gives in Manashiksha. So I only have 2 books left if you want to get one tonight. When we run out here, they are available for a little bit higher price on Amazon. And we're also available on Amazon and Kindle, and the end of this month it should be available on Amazon as an Audible book also. So thank you very much. Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai.